Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Rustin, and tonight is just Vol Bro. As you can see, we do not have Evan this evening. We are very thankful to be sponsored by the Ooltewah Club, and we are also thankful to be a part um, of the Believe Network. It's good to see so many of you already in the stream. That is kind of wild. There are a lot of you on here. So let's start off. Let's see. Let's just start going through some of these comments because there's a lot of you all already on here. David said the SEC is a dogfight every week this year. Mississippi State looks like a 7-8 win team. Maybe. I think they benefited from a really bad day by us, but we'll see. Nolan said he's here 15 minutes early to hear me eat crow, saying that don't worry, they haven't seen anything like our level of talent. Finally, just glad we finally won a tough SEC road game we were favored to win. So I'll unpack my thoughts on that game. Let's just be candid. We did not play well. Even not playing well, we scored 41 points. We easily could have had 55. The offensive pass interference call was horrendous, and three of Mississippi State's touchdowns came because we gave them field position inside our own 30. So if you even take one of those away, like the muffed punt, now all of a sudden it's a 3-touchdown game. So I was not happy with how we played. It's good to survive on the road. But I think every coach in that locker room is going to walk in with a lot of things to talk about on Monday because there's a lot to fix. Slim, glad you're here. He said good old Rocky Top. Matt said Rocky Top. Volbro Unk, our Uncle Dave, said, frankly, the sound of 50,000 cowbells has never been an enjoyable thing to me. Might have messed with the Vols passing game a few times, but thankfully truth, justice, and the Vol American way prevail. Yeah, I'll tell you, there were a few times during that game the cowbells started getting to me through the TV speakers and forced me to have to mute it because it was getting to be too much. Stingray said, tough win, but it's a win. David said, we played our worst game this year and won. I initially wasn't happy about how yesterday went, but Arizona State is ranked number 24, and they lost to Mississippi State, and we didn't. The new AP poll is bizarre. The AP poll, the new one that just came out, is the number one reason why the media should never get to vote on anything. That thing is nothing about it makes sense. David said LSU, Georgia, and Florida State were exposed. Yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, Georgia should be 2-2 right now. We kick a field goal with 3 seconds left, and they're sitting at 2-2. So they should be very thankful that they're 3-1. Matt said that Matt was in-house in Stark Vegas. He said it was an emotional roller coaster I haven't experienced in a while. Loved it. David said Heupel has to be better at clock management or it's another Georgia debacle. Yeah, I got to be honest. I'm not real sure what in the world they were doing in the last minute. Nothing about that made sense. You can't take your timeouts into overtime. Even if you were concerned about the length of the field goal for the kicker, why are we not trying to get closer? Why are we not using timeouts to stop the clock and find ways to get closer? They were playing off coverage. They were giving you 7-8 yards to the outside pretty much every time. Nothing about that made sense. I was very disappointed with how they managed that. Let's see here. Matt's chanting for Evan to come back. Evan will not be here tonight. Evan is on the ocean somewhere. Rebel Juice said, good evening, y'all. A win is a win, but that was a nasty one. Yes, it was. Let's see here. David said Florida and UCLA are fighting for 1-11 this year. I'll tell you, UCLA losing to Purple Vandy was quite the show. I'm not sure they can win a game. 1-11 might be a good year for them at this point. That UCLA team is just awful. Rhonda said, "Good evening. It wasn't all pretty, but we got the win. I'm thinking about training to be a referee. I can't be any worse than what we are seeing." Yeah, you know what's bad when the national media are even starting to say, "What's going on in the SEC?" And I'm not just going to talk about our game here because I don't want to sound like a homer complaining about calls. If you watched all the SEC games yesterday, every single one of them had some horrendous calls. I mean, just really bad stuff where they were almost like making it up on the fly. It made absolutely no sense. So I was very very surprised at how they handled that, all of it. Even the offensive pass interference. The guy who made that call called it from the other side of the field. There were three refs closer to that play than him, and they all have headsets on. They can talk to each other. The other three should have told that dude, "Hey, you're just wrong. Wave that off." Like that didn't happen. Um, and it's poor that they don't handle it that way when they have the opportunity to communicate. But there were so many things I could have pointed out on both sides. I mean, they missed so many calls. We got away with multiple holding calls. Our offensive line had a below average night, and we made up for it by holding everybody we saw. Um, Rebel Jews agreeing the refs' calls were unbelievably bad. Um, People are asking Matt how his ears are after being in all those cowbells for that long. Jonathan said, "Hello, Rustin, chat family. Good gritty win yesterday. It's always hard to win on the road in the SEC, and the refs were horrible." Clay said, "Go Vols, a win is a win." Yeah, especially when, Heupel has an MO for having one letdown on the road every year. So for us to have a letdown on the road and still come out with a W is huge. That's a really good thing. And there was so many things they can take away from this that they can go back and teach on because we made a lot of mistakes. Good evening, everyone. Glad our guys get this week off to recuperate. They need it badly. Yes, they do. And 2 weeks from now, we might be seeing Jermon McCoy for the first time. So that's going to be a welcome addition as well. Nolan said at 11 minutes left in the third quarter, it should have been 28-7. Yeah, it should have. Um, we kept putting our defense. I've seen a lot of people complaining about our defense. At one point, our defense was outscoring our offense. Our defense had 14 points and our offense had 13. And our defense gave up 3 touchdowns where the opponent started inside their own 30. It's hard to play defense when you're constantly backed up against your own goal line. We put our defense in some difficult positions, and when it mattered, they rose up and got stops. So I thought the defense actually didn't play that badly. Now our tackling is poor. We've got to fix that. But for the guys we had out there, I thought they actually did a pretty good job considering the circumstances we were putting them in. Rebel Juice says Vols stay at 15 in the AP. They won't move us up until if we beat Oklahoma. That game will determine so much. Yeah, and that's probably going to be an Oklahoma game without John Mateer. Yeah, Oreo Puppy Dog said, "Don't know why, but Boo should have caught all punts. Time management in the end was horrible. Our kicker definitely not good in pressure situations." I was very surprised by Braylon Staley being back for the first 2 punts. I did not understand that at all. There was no reason for it. He hasn't been getting those reps. Boo was healthy. Just a weird decision. Like he says, "Evening, Rustin in chat. Why do I feel like I played that game? Brutal." Yeah, it definitely got into your hearts and heads. Matt said he can hear loud and clear. Nothing worse than a good game in Neyland. I don't know. Those cowbells were pretty brutal. Sam said our game with Mississippi State shows how much more difficult it is to win in the SEC in an NIL era. Injuries are going to decide the SEC. They could. That's very possible. Tony said if Matthews catches a 70-yard touchdown pass, which was an unbelievably bad drop, and the terrible call against Brazil and a few more drops, Joey throws for 500 yards. Yeah, absolutely. He not to mention the 2 interceptions. He hit his tight end on both of them right in the hands. Like, catch the ball, dude. I mean, I know Miles Kitselman feels that way. He's probably watching it going, "Why did I miss both of those?" Um, you know, if you're that big, you're open, and you get hit in the hands, it should be caught. Um, Jonathan said, "I'd love to see Morris returning punts. Boo's a good punt returner, but he could benefit from just focus on defense. Also, I don't want to see Staley returning punts anymore." I would say after he muffed one and then didn't catch the second one on purpose, yeah, you won't be seeing him anymore. He lost that job pretty quickly. Yeah, unfortunately, Billy said they should fire the refs that made that offensive pass interference call. Unfortunately, they won't, because apparently they must have a shortage like everybody else, and they're just letting whoever call games because every year the SEC's officials get worse and worse. So they clearly aren't fixing anything. Let's see. Yes, Rebel Jew, Arkansas fired Sam Pittman today. That was probably overdue on time. Oreo Puppy Dog said hype needs an assistant just to keep up with the clock and be a reminder of time. So that was what was weird about the last minute. Everybody in the stadium sees the same thing. Every coach on those headsets are watching the same thing. They're all discussing it. Like, it's not hype's not sitting there in his own head thinking about 100 different things. Like, he's on the headset talking to the coaches in the box, and they're talking about what their next steps are. So, nobody on that headset was saying, "Hey, let's do this and call timeout. Hey, let's move it up 8 yards and call timeout." So I would love to know what the conversation was because nothing about that made sense. Um, let's see. Sam said, "When coaches make the kind of money they do, I feel like they're coaching to keep the money and coming instead of playing to win." Um, there's probably some pressure there to make sure you don't lose. That's always going to be a part of it. Jonathan said you can watch any sport at any level, and the officiating's terrible everywhere. Yeah, but I feel like the SEC, like, if you're not sure, just don't throw the flag. Like, it's better to err on the side of not being controversial and just letting the play happen. But I feel like the SEC does the exact opposite. They just throw the flag regardless, and don't stop and think about, am I right on this? Um, Yes. Okay, so Sean had a great comment here. It wouldn't help with officiating, I don't think, but I love the insight that the ACC refs have given the media for their games. Yeah, the ACC is doing some really creative things right now. They're doing a lot of post game debriefs on their officials. Um, the coolest, in my opinion, the coolest thing they do is letting us on TV listen in when the replay booth is talking to the ref on the field. Hearing that conversation is unreal. I wish every conference would do that. All right, Matt, please do not get arrested in Stark Vegas. Let's see. John said Sanders looked good, all things considered. Everything but he was okay. Everything but the false start. False start was terrible. Let's see. Yeah, Miles Kitselman did not have a good day. And on the flip side, we have this. Mississippi Vol said, "I know one thing. Arian Carter's a warrior. Think I heard he was dealing with turf toe. He sure didn't play like it. Hats off for a great performance." Yeah, 17 tackles, the game-winning pass deflection, and you are correct. He is playing with turf toe, which, for those of you who don't know what that is, it is a really painful foot injury that typically doesn't go away unless you just rest it. And so, Arian Carter knows every time he goes out there and plays, he's just making it worse, and it's going to just be more painful. And for him to go out there and get 17 tackles plus a game winning pass deflection while basically playing the entire game in a lot of pain is really impressive. In the NFL, if you get turf toe, they sit you down for 3 or 4 weeks. So he's gutting it out. Nolan said our ends played elite, and our offensive line may have been one of the best pass protecting O lines in the nation. So they did do a good job in pass pro. They were awful in the run game. I don't know that they were that great in pass pro, or Mississippi State just wasn't very good at the rush. Because they did not, in my opinion, the offensive line did not have a good day. And Glenn Ellerbee is going to have a lot to point to. Let's see. Holy cow. All right. So let's just jump ahead. So just as a kind of wrap up of the game, I'll just kind of go position by position. Thought Joey did a good job. The 2 interceptions weren't his fault. As I believe Tony said, if we catch the football, Joey throws for over 500 yards, and we put 55 points on the board. Which is kind of weird to say that we did not run the ball well at all, and the offensive line did a terrible job in the run game, and we didn't play well, and we still almost could have scored 55 points. So, you can't feel bad about that. A lot of that's on Joey and the receivers. Running backs did a fairly good job, but it's hard to run when you have no holes. Kudos to Jack Van Doorslayer, the power play off tackle to start the overtime. Van Doorslayer just eliminated his guy, and that's what sprung it. He did a fantastic job on that kick out block. So when they had to play well, they made plays, but they definitely had moments where they were not playing well at all. And the offensive line, I don't know what in the world happened. I don't know if you all realize it, but until the overtime, when Deshaun Bishop ripped off that 25-yard run, we were averaging less than 4 yards a carry. That run put us just over. I think we finished 4.1 yards per carry, and I wanted to see that play a lot more physical up front from the beginning. I felt like our defensive line and our linebackers and even our DBs tried to inflict physicality. I thought they were trying to show that they were the better team and more physical. I did not see that from our offensive line. I saw a lot of guys missing blocks. I saw a lot of miscommunication. It was not a good day for them. There was a couple of times, to be candid, even in pass pro, they weren't great, and the running back saved them. There were a few plays where Mississippi State probably should have gotten a sack, and the running back left his spot he was supposed to be blocking and went and picked up the guy that got free. So kudos to the running backs. Other than Peyton Lewis, he had one Olay on a block that was just awful. But Deshaun Bishop and Star Thomas, and other than one play, Peyton Lewis did a really good job pass blocking. But we've got to get better at the point of attack in the offensive line. It was not pretty. Kudos to the wide receivers. They did everything they could do. They played extremely well. Other than the drop ball by Mike Matthews, they did everything they possibly could to win that game. Defensively, I thought the DBs actually played really well. We had 2 coverage busts. Luckily, one of them they dropped. One was Caleb Beasley just completely forgot his job and watched a guy run right past him. He was supposed to be in deep halves, and he just got caught flat-footed, and dude ran right past him and luckily dropped the ball. The other one, and I saw people online trashing Andre Turrentine, the touchdown down the sideline, or he may not have scored, he may have gotten pushed out near the goal line. The deep ball down the sideline that no one covered was 100% Colton Hood's fault. If you go back and watch it, everybody on the field is playing cover 3 except Colton Hood. And that zone that the guy caught the ball in was the zone he should have been in. You can even see Jalen McMurray flies up to cover the flat in front of Colton Hood, and Colton Hood looks at him like, "Why are you over here?" So that was 100% a bust on his part. That's not on the defense per se. That's 2 kids making mental mistakes. And when everybody else on the field's doing the right thing, you can't really blame coaches for that. That's one player making a mental mistake, and he's got to fix that. So overall, I thought other than the two coverage busts, I thought overall the DBs played really well. I thought they were very physical, did a good job. Um, Defensive line, the starters were outstanding. Same issue as last week. When we start getting into the second and third string tackles, they've got issues. We've got to get David Hobbs back. Jackson Moy coming back was a nice help, but we've got to get David Hobbs back so we can put our four best defensive tackles out there as much as possible. The edges did a fantastic job. Caleb Herring once again made big plays. Joshua Josephs, Tyree West, Dominic Bailey. The edges were outstanding. They did Jordan Ross. They did a great job all day. Arion Carter, as we said, had probably the game of his career. I'm wondering if Jeremiah Thielander is playing injured because he looks a step slow all the time. He's not getting to his tackles. When he does get there, he's not making the tackle. There's such a thing as playing hard, and then there's such a thing as hurting your team because you're trying to play hard and play through an injury. He does not look right. And I think that's why you saw so much of Edwin Spillman in the second half. He's a lot faster to the ball than Thielander is right now, and he's coming with vengeance. Like he's looking to inflict pain. He's also a little better in coverage right now, again, because he's still faster than Thielander. So hopefully the 2 weeks off will be what Thielander needs to get healthy, and we'll see a different guy the second half of this season. But when I watch him, I don't see the same player. He clearly has something wrong with him. So let's go back to the comments, see what people thought about the game. Sam said the muff punt completely changed the flow of the game, and it would have been a blowout if he catches it. Yeah, we definitely had all the momentum, and that all of a sudden gave them some life. Elijah said, I need to know why Starr isn't getting more touches. He's easily our best back. Well, he dropped two passes they threw in, for one thing. He did not look like he was in it mentally on Saturday. He ran hard a few times, but again, a lot of it was our offensive line wasn't opening up any holes. Like there wasn't anywhere for him to go. He was having to spin and strain for every yard he could get. And then when they tried to get him involved in the pass game, he kept dropping the ball. So, he'll be better. He did not have a good day, but he'll recover. He'll be fine. Mr. Osborne said, I thought that game with Mississippi State would be tougher than we thought. Tough place to play, but we survived and won. Mississippi Val agrees with me. Jack Van Doorslayer is going to be a great player. David said Van Doorslayer will be a superstar next year. Oreo Puppy Dog said, if we make the head ref do a post-game interview, this would get fixed pretty fast. It's possible. Matt said he was fourth row from the field next to where State runs out of the tunnel. It was awesome, right in the thick of State alumni, right next to the students. David said there was a lot of arm grabbing and tackling, which killed us in the run defense. Yeah, there was also a lot of flying shoulders, and that's some of that. It's just hard because the rules around tackling have changed so much, and the way we teach guys to tackle now is not the same as what it was even 10 years ago. And so when you're going as fast as these guys are, the technique of how you're supposed to tackle now to avoid head injuries doesn't always work. And so that's a lot of why they're missing him as well. Mr. Osborne said it was good to see so many Vol fans, had to be around 25% of the total crowd. Yeah, Mississippi State really should thank us for their sellout because we did a big portion of it. Sam said Heupel talked about going with 30 personnel on the off tackle run by Bishop. He looked fresher than the State defense. Yeah, and so the other thing he did, and if y'all go back and watch it, you'll see this. So as a running back, there's a concept that's called pressuring the hole. And so if there's linebackers in the middle of the field, you want to get them as close to the line of scrimmage as possible. So when you bounce it outside, they get caught up in the clutter. And Deshaun Bishop, now this is because Van Doorslayer eliminated his guy. Deshaun Bishop did a fantastic job of pressing the hole and getting as deep into the offensive line as possible to make those linebackers come up. And then when he bounced it outside, they all got caught in the clutter. So Deshaun did a great job setting up the run. Van Doorslayer did an amazing job eliminating the edge guy. And then it was Katie barred the door after that. Let's see. David said Campbell and Utley are still raw, playing like true freshmen for sure. Yeah, they play hard though. I'll give them that. I like how both of them have no reservation. They get in there and stick their nose in it. Their technique's not great yet. They're still getting influenced by some stuff, but they're playing hard, and Coach Garner will fix that. Rebel Juice said, "Did anybody see Squirrel White trampled by Virginia after they beat FSU?" Yeah, I was worried for him, honestly. I was watching that live, and when all those kids came on the field right where he was laying on the ground, it did not look good. I hope he is okay. Rhonda said, "If we can play a full 4 quarters, everyone clicking, we would be a beast. Winning games like this one as good teams find a way to win. I feel we will get better." Yeah, they definitely will. You know, I guarantee there's a lot of coaches in the room right now going, "Man, if we could ever put 4 quarters together," they're saying the same thing. Jared said, "Did we wait until the 4th quarter to stack the box? Were we afraid of the quarterback passing?" I don't know that we were afraid of the quarterback passing. When 2 of their top 3 receivers went down, that's when we started stacking the box. So, it wasn't, I don't think that was, we were worried about them or the quarterback per se. It was more we were concerned about covering their receivers one on one. So when their best guys went down, all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, the guys we got out here, we can cover them one on one. So that allows you to put more in the box. Jonathan agrees with me. He said he thinks T-Lander looks injured as well. Yeah, Slim. I thought Boo broke that receiver's legs. He hit him hard. Yeah, that was ugly. I was very surprised that guy got up and jogged off. His knee went in a direction your knee should never go. Volcano said Matthews has a drop issue, but his speed is insane. Yeah, it's always hard when you're as fast as somebody is like that to slow yourself down to catch the ball. And so, Joey really needs to throw the ball out in front of him and let him run through it so he doesn't have to slow down. Because he definitely, when he has to slow down to catch it, it definitely creates issues for him. Jeff asked, "Is Evan okay?" Yep, he's on a boat. Um, Probably trying to evade ice. No, just kidding. He's on a cruise. Jared asked, "Do I think it was offensive pass interference on the long touchdown pass?" No, it was the worst call of the year in the SEC. The DB just got turned around and then fell down. Period. Like, it doesn't matter what angle you watch it from. That's what happened from every camera angle. The DB got turned around, didn't know where he was, and then just fell down. Matt said, "I felt like when West pancaked and fumbled the quarterback and Joseph scooped it up and scored, it was a turning point, 100%. All right, so let's use that. Somebody asked if anybody heard about Perry's injury. He's fine. He was just dinged up. He actually finished the game. He came back in. All right, so let's go off of this. Play of the game for me was that play right there that Matt's talking about. It was Tyree West comes off the edge, almost decapitates Blake Shapen. Blake Shapen, I honestly, again, that's another one. I have no idea how he got up. Like when Tyree West hit him, he was laying on the field like he was dead, and I thought they were about to bring out a stretcher. Um, and then the scoop and score by Joshua Josephs. If you haven't seen it yet, Colton Hood's perspective of that play is on video. He's talking post game about what was happening, and him explaining it from his perspective is hilarious. Paraphrased version: he was covering somebody and didn't even know the ball had come out, And he said, all of a sudden it got real quiet, and I looked up, and we were running with the ball. And so he, his perspective is priceless. Um, so if you get a chance, I would check that out. Elijah said there was also a fumble on that one play, but we got the pick six right after. Ball don't lie kind of play. Elijah said the Tyree West obliteration combined with the Joshua Joseph scoop and score is the only answer for play of the game. Todd said Shapen played like that during the Arizona State game. That kid's a baller. He's tough. Yeah, I was shocked at how tough he was. He took some hits. And there was a couple of times you could tell he was feeling it. And he was having thoughts about, am I leaving this game? Like you could see it on his face, but he just kept coming back. Jonathan said, I would say the play of the game would be that scoop and score or Hood's pick six. Both were game changing plays. Yeah, I would probably lean more toward the scoop and score because we created that. Hood's pick six was created by a bad pass by Blake Shapen. He threw the ball behind the receiver, and it deflected into Hood's hands. Rhonda's going with Deshaun Bishop's overtime touchdown. It's amazing what happens when you execute. That was the exact same play they tried to run against Georgia in overtime, and they didn't execute. And this time they did what they were supposed to and ripped off a 25-yard run because of it. Hopefully, we start incorporating that play into the middle of the field some as well. Mino Likey agrees with Elijah. Mississippi Vols going with the scoop and score as well. Sandra said, did you see we got Olivia Edwards? Yep. Coach Caldwell just keeps pulling in the best talent in the country. It's pretty incredible. It's amazing what happens when you have a coach who knows how to relate to players and has players on campus that'll vouch for her, that she cares about them and make sure that they're successful. And she's just going to start reloading. It's going to be one of those scenarios where every year she's going to have the best players in the country coming in. Mino Likey gave it to the pick six. Sam said on the offensive pass interference call, the DB came up and laid two hands on Brazzell. Then the hand fighting started. This seems to define defensive pass interference. Your thoughts? Yeah, they typically don't call hand fighting because it happens on every pass. Like if they're going to call that, they have to literally call an interference on every single pass play. Every angle I've watched, it's the same thing. Right after the hand fighting, the DB looks up to try to find the ball, gets turned around, and just falls down. Like he just loses his balance and falls down. I don't know how in the world. Like I said, every guy out there, every ref out there is on a headset. They can talk to each other. I don't know why the three officials who were closer to the play than the one who threw the flag didn't get on that headset and go, "Hey, dude, no, he just fell down. Like there's nothing there. Wave that off." And they can. They have the authority to do that. And so that was probably what frustrated me more than anything was the three people closer to the play didn't tell the guy who got it wrong, "Hey, we're closer. He just fell down. Wave that off." Um, it was just terrible all the way around. Todd said that he and Joshua Josephs went to the same high school, just a couple decades apart. Rhonda said Olivia Edwards is a huge get for the ladies. I Bleed Orange said, are you worried about struggling against Mississippi State? No. I'm thrilled to death that we had a crap game early in the season. We escaped with a win, and now we have material that our coaches can point to their players over and over again and go, hey, remember we did this? We're not doing this anymore. It's a fantastic teaching point. I'm glad it happened early, and I'm glad that we escaped with a win, even though we played awful. Mino Likey is going with the scoop and score. Jonathan said Brazzell's catch while getting pushed downfield and still making catch was crazy also. Yeah, it was. I didn't know how that wasn't a flag. No, it absolutely should have been. That was pass interference. The DB just grabbed him and pulled him down. And I don't know how in the world he caught that ball either, but it was impressive. Elijah said, It was Hype's annual sucky road game, but we actually won it this time. That is correct. Sam said, amazing how many millions of dollars changed direction due to a horrible call by an official. Don't know how they don't clean that stuff up. That's true. I'm not real sure why Vegas hasn't gotten involved in this. I mean, they have a lot of money riding on this, and these officials are just butchering the game. I mean, they're again. My mentality is if you're not sure, don't throw it. Like just keep the flag in the pocket because typically you're probably right to not throw it. You could throw a flag on literally every play of the game. And so if you have questions about a call, don't throw it. Let it play out and stop and think about it. Get on the headset, talk to your partners and make the right call. Don't just make a knee jerk reaction and then have to explain it later how you blew it. Tony's going to play the game as Joey Aguilar's throw on the game-winning touchdown drive, going down and hit Matthews for a first down. Huge. Yeah, that was kind of wild. I was honestly surprised he threw it. Who do you think is the most talented wide receiver on the Tennessee roster? Right now, it's Chris Brazzell. A year from now, it'll probably be Mike Matthews, but he's got a little more development to go. David said, are you worried about Petrino being the head coach in the Arkansas game? Not really, because right now that place is a dumpster fire. They are in significant disarray internally, and Petrino is lobbying for the head coaching job, and he is very focused on building rapport with people to try to get that job. I somebody's going to have to step into that role and change everything because they've got a lot of problems. Clay said Brazel's a dog. Jonathan said he would go with Mike Matthews. Matt said Brazel. Rebel Juice said, I'm glad we played poorly against Mississippi State, not Oklahoma, Alabama, or Florida, because against them we would have lost, and now we're better prepared for them. Yep, that's true. Sam said, I don't understand how a former Alabama quarterback's allowed to be a head SEC official. It's the definition of bias. There's no doubt he makes calls against certain teams. Yeah, it's a little weird. That's true. I was always a little surprised by that myself. All right. So let's go player of the game. I may skew this right off the bat, but honestly, I don't know how you pick anybody else. Arion Carter playing injured with 17 tackles and the game-winning pass deflection. That guy could not have played better. He had his best game ever as a Vol. He was orchestrating the defense. He was calling everything. He was playing sideline to sideline. He was taking on lead blockers on isolation plays right the middle and still making the tackle. He was playing pass coverage. I don't know if he hardly ever came off the field. He played almost every defensive snap, and just was a man among boys. Just incredible game for Arion Carter. Feel free to put in the comments if you want to choose somebody else as your player of the game. But I'm going Arion Carter with, in my opinion, the best game he's ever played in a Vol uniform. Mississippi Vol said Bobby Petrino may be the head coach when they come up here, but I don't see that defense improving. That's true. That defense is horrendously bad. David said, my favorite play was Brazel's clutch fourth down catch. Yeah, that was important. Sam said Arion deserves a bye week and was unreal good this week. Very excited to see our D the rest of the year with Hobbs and McCoy back. That's for sure. This is a very different defense if those two guys are on the field. We have a lot of options when people can go back to their normal positions. Jonathan said he would take Arion Carter or any of the defensive ends. David, this is a good pick. He's going with Tyree West. He changed the outcome of the game with his game-wrecking sack. He also played really, really well. Not just that play, he had a really good night. He did a good job. When he was on the field, they rarely ever moved the ball. He and Joshua Josephs were fantastic. Let's see here. Todd said that Aaron Carter's playing injured for sure. Honorable mention Joey Aguilar, first quarterback under hype to throw for 350 in his first road game. A Staley catch and no offensive pass interference, and that's almost 450. Well, and add Mike Matthews drop. You add Mike Matthews drop, and it's over 500. Can we start having, Nolan said, can we start having the conversation that Brazzell may be an even better wide receiver than Hyatt? Oh, I think he absolutely is. Jalen Hyatt was a burner who understood how to run past people and get open. Chris Brazzell has figured out how to get himself open. He can attack the deep ball. He goes up and wins 50-50 balls, but on the intermediate throws, he is creating openings, and that's hard to do. Matt said player of the game is Joey Aguilar until we lose. Slim said the drive to tie up the game was elite. David said West, Josephs, and Herring are the best trio of pass rushers in the country. Prove me wrong. Yeah, don't leave out Dominic Bailey on that list. Dominic Bailey's done a really, really good job. Then when he slides out to the edge, he can get after people. All right. Any other people want to throw in somebody for player of the game? Elijah said, I think Brazzell's working himself into a top 2-round draft pick type of player. Yeah, he's got to have a good pro day. He's not really fast enough to be a top 2-round guy. He's definitely getting drafted. He's played himself right onto draft boards, but he's got to make sure that he increases his speed for pro day. Tony said, been wanting to see us run a fake punt for over 4 years. Jeff Levy wasn't afraid to do it. I know we had the strip sack touchdown after that, but Levy made a great call. Yeah, it was. And they designed it well too. They knew how we shift based on their alignment on punt, and they caught us in a return. We had a return set up for Boo, and they didn't kick it. Sandra said Caleb Herring was her player of the game. He's been playing well all season. He's given them some really good snaps. He's doing a good job coming off the bench, providing a spark. He's done a great job. Sam said that Max Gilbert keeps costing him money. He's going to get coal for Christmas. Slim said Herring's been playing awesome ball. Like he's worried about the cookie company. Elijah thinks it's funny that Sam bets on college kickers. I do too. I would not trust them with anything. All right. So let's think about the next couple of weeks. So we get a week off, which we badly need, and then an Arkansas game or an Arkansas team comes in that's an absolute dumpster fire right now. Bobby Petrino will probably be coaching them. Their defense is the worst in the SEC by far. We should put up a lot of points on them. Let's see here. That Arkansas team. Come on, computer. Move a little quicker. That Arkansas team gets a bye week as well. So this is going to be interesting. They get a week off. We get a week off. We get guys back. We get to fix some things. Bobby Petrino has 2 weeks to try to right the ship. That defense ain't going to get any better. Like, there's nothing he can do to make them better. They're just not good. They did a poor job recruiting. There is no talent on that defense. But it'll be interesting to see how he changes other things. That's going to be an interesting game. Jeff said, I love the Carter West and Brazzell choices, but I go with Joey. after everything has gone wrong, including the 2 picks. He led us right down the field under pressure regularly and in that crowd. Sam is explaining his bets now and why the kicker is letting him down. Todd has Falcons syndrome. He said, as someone who lives in Atlanta and went through the Petrino with the Falcons, we can't run that score high enough for me. Yeah, Bobby burned some bridges in Atlanta. I still am a Falcons fan, unfortunately, and Bobby's time in Atlanta was not good. Yeah, Elijah said, "Did you see the Arkansas receiver's leg get snapped in half playing Notre Dame?" Yeah, if you have not watched that video, don't. It's ugly. He definitely broke it. Jonathan asked, "Do we beat Arkansas by 20?" It's probably a little premature to pick that yet. I will say, any defense that allows Notre Dame to score 55, you definitely got a question. Yeah, Mississippi Vol said, "Think how much Notre Dame could have put on them if they had wanted to," and that's true. Notre Dame called off the dogs really early. Um, you know, they had 42 at the half, and then just scored one touchdown in each quarter in the second half, and it was mostly because they just stopped playing hard. Um, it was bad. David said, "Arkansas is the best running team in the SEC, and we've struggled in run defense. I hope we fix that." Getting people healthy will fix a lot of that. I don't know that we've struggled in run defense. I think we just are tired and we're having to play guys that are injured and they're just not making plays. If you look at the alignment, our alignments are right. We're in position. Like if I can't tell you how many times when I watched that game back yesterday, I can't tell you how many times we were in position for a tackle for loss and just didn't make the tackle. Like we're where we're supposed to be. We just got to execute. Tony said, "I hope we see more of Edwin Spillman going forward. T-Lander is slow." I don't know that T-Lander's slow so much as I really believe he's playing injured. He doesn't look like the same guy. There's something wrong. Sam asked a really good question. Will Arkansas have any players sit and enter the portal? I would almost guarantee it. They've got 2 weeks off before that game. That's a lot of time for guys to sit in their dorm rooms and go, "Am I coming back here next year?" Um, I would almost guarantee it. Sam, yep, this happened. Arkansas let Notre Dame score 6 straight touchdowns in the first half, 6 touchdowns and 6 drives. Elijah said they could have scored 80. They absolutely could have. They emptied the benches at halftime, and it was not pretty. Keg 2071 said, "Late, but a win is a win." Matt said he hung out with a Mississippi State couple that's gone to almost every game for 20 years. They said Tennessee fans showed up more than any game they've ever seen. Yeah, LSU found that out the hard way last year, too. Sam said, "I truly wonder how much the long running drives we had last year helped the defense, and obviously we were more healthy. I still think the defense has been too harshly judged this year." Yeah, I agree. I watched that game back, and I thought we played with great physicality. I thought we were trying to send a message. Um, we just have guys who are playing injured and are dinged up, and they're just not executing. When you watch it, we're in position. We should have had multiple tackles for loss yesterday, and we just didn't make the tackle. Um, that a week off helps with stuff like that. Todd said, "Did T-Lander get hurt last week with Georgia? Didn't I see him down that game?" It's possible. You never really know where these guys are physically, and a lot of these guys they'll play through injuries. They'll try to go and they'll lie to the trainers and say it feels fine because they want to play. But he looks a step slow right now. He looks like there's something wrong with him. Deborah asked how I think Jackson Moy added to the game yesterday. I thought he did a fantastic job. I honestly would have liked to have seen him get more snaps. They were definitely limiting his snaps. I would have liked to have seen him play more. But that guy, he's just got such a high motor. He's got fantastic technique. He gives us a spurt. And when he's at full strength and they're able to play him as much as they want, he will be a factor. Same thing with Jonathan's comment here. We get David Hobbs and Jermod McCoy back for that Arkansas game. We are a very different defense. A lot of the problems get fixed themselves if those two guys play. Let's see. Keg said the D put up 14 points. They bent the first three quarters and stepped it up in the fourth. Yeah, I thought they did a really good job. Again, I think the offense and special teams put them in some really bad positions. And in spite of that, they played well. They tried to make plays. They were getting after it, trying to create things. I think they were. I thought they were really good. Sam said, "I'm curious to see the O line with David Sanders coming back next game." Well, you say that, but I'll just point out that when Perry got injured, David Sanders came in. After David Sanders jumped off sides, Perry magically got healthy and came back and finished the game. So I'm not so sure you're going to see David Sanders in the starting five for a while. He's either somebody's going to have to get injured or he's going to have to step it up because he looked, and this is just my opinion, he looked a little too excited to be playing. And I know he's a freshman getting in his first game ever. It would have been great if it had been ETSU or UAB because it might not have been so crazy. But he looked a little too amped up. Like he was a little too excited, which is one of the reasons why he jumped. Um, he needs to calm down and play the game. He was all over the place. Even after the game, they showed video of him after the game. He was running around like he just won the SEC championship. He's got to dial it back and focus a little bit. Rhonda asked what I thought about the Alabama Georgia game. Georgia's got problems. I mean, again, if Max Gilbert hits field goal, Georgia's 2-2 right now. Georgia's running game is very questionable. I thought that honestly, I thought Alabama paid a lot of attention to how we moved the ball against Georgia, and they ran a lot of the exact same combinations. But it was interesting. I think the SEC is wide open, that's for sure. It'll be interesting to see how things play out the rest of the season and who ends up in Atlanta. It's going to be a weird year. Billy said, "Do you think the sun was a problem at first? Some of the players couldn't catch." Maybe. I wasn't there, so I couldn't tell. It didn't look like it. If you're watching on TV, it didn't look like it was a problem, but you never really know unless you're there and you're seeing what they're seeing. You can't fully know. I will say this, although it shouldn't be an excuse because they catch Jackson Ross's punts. Um, it is different coming off a left foot than a right foot. So I don't know if that was part of his issue as well. But they should see plenty of left-footed punts because Jackson Ross is ambipedal. He kicks with both. So it shouldn't have mattered about that. Sam said he thought Braylon Staley was too amped with the family connection, and that cost him too. They need the Joey calmness. Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference in both those kids. David Sanders is 18, Braylon Staley's 19, Joey's 23. That makes a difference. Jonathan said, "I know Sanders is going to be great, but as good as the O-line has played, I say we need to leave the starting five the way it's been the rest of the season." I think that's kind of what you're going to see. Those guys have earned the opportunity. The one thing I would question is if either Wendell Moe or Sean Umaroff don't start doing a better job in the run game, do you bench one of them, slide Perry to the guard, which he can play, and put Sanders in at tackle? That's something that could happen. Matt said that stadium was nuts when Sanders went in. I don't blame him on his first start. Yeah, I don't either. Um, you know, I get it. He's 18. It was exciting. It'd just been good if somebody had gotten in his ear and said, "Hey, let's breathe. Let's focus on what our role is. Think about assignment. Don't think about the height. Focus on your role." Deborah asks, "Some people think Mississippi State should be ranked. What say you?" No, I don't think so. I think they caught lightning in a bottle. I just don't think we played that well. I mean, just to be candid, I think we have a lot of things we need to fix. I think they had a couple of things go their way, like Braylon Staley muffing that punt. Um, I still think we're 3 or 4 touchdowns better than that team, and we just didn't play well. Um, I mean, next weekend they have to go to A&M. They'll lose that, so now they're 4-2. Then they play Florida. They could win that. That Florida team's falling apart. So let's say they do. That's 5-2. Then they play Texas. They're not going to beat them. That's 5-3. They could beat Arkansas. That's for sure. 6-3. They're not going to beat Georgia. That's 6-4. They're definitely not beating Missouri in Columbia in November. That'll be miserable. They're 6-5, and I don't think they can beat Ole Miss. So I think they're probably 6-6 at best, maybe even 5-7. So no, I do not think they should be ranked. Todd said Atlanta. So you're saying there's a chance? Honestly, I think we've got a fighting chance to be there. So if you haven't seen our show before, Todd, I'm not a fan of the SEC championship. I've won a lot of tiebreakers because I want 2 teams to go instead of us. I don't want to go to the SEC championship. I want nothing to do with the SEC championship. In my opinion, it's a worthless game. And the only thing that can come of it is either you win it and get a target on your back in the playoffs, or you lose it and they hold it against you and keep you out of the playoffs. So I want nothing to do with it. I want a week off to rest up and get healthy and get ready for the tournament that actually matters. As far as I'm concerned, now that they've gone to a 9-game SEC schedule, I'd be tickled pink if they just ditched the SEC championship altogether. Matt said, "I went to Oklahoma last year. Yesterday was twice as crazy." Yeah, Oklahoma's kind of a weird place to watch a game. They're not that loud there. Matt, Deborah's State is going to upset more than a couple teams this year. I don't know. Their schedule the rest of the way does not lay out well for them. I could see them upsetting Florida and Gainesville because they could just outscore them. But I don't see them being a. I don't see them being a beating A&M in A&M. I don't see them beating Texas. I don't see them beating Georgia. They're definitely not beating Missouri in November in Columbia. That's a miserable atmosphere. Nobody plays well there. And I don't see them beating Ole Miss. So I think 6-6 is the ceiling. Billy said, "Do you think we could beat Alabama if we're healthy?" Absolutely. I think we can outscore them 100%. Yeah, Mississippi State, Rhonda said, with Mississippi State going wide out, our people in orange looked awesome. Yeah, that was really bad planning on their part because not only did they not achieve a wideout, they showed that we took over 25 to 30% of their stadium. Like there was no doubting how many Tennessee fans were there. That was really, really bad planning. Um, Sam said 6-6 or 7-5 would be a great year for State. Yeah, it would. It'd be a good next step for Jeff Lebby. That would be good for him. Um, Honestly, with some of the job openings that are out there, Mississippi State better hope Levy doesn't do too well because somebody will come lure him away. Mississippi State just can't handle some of the money some of these schools could offer. Um, Robert said, "I think State is better than some of the ranked teams." Well, that's because the ranked teams were all picked by the AP. Um, there's not a whole lot in the AP that actually makes sense. Uh, Jonathan said, "I agree. I want us to have a shot at the SEC title game, but lose a tiebreaker and not get to go." Amen. Will, good to see you. Matt said half white out, half orange out. That's the way it looked on television. It was not good. Will, our resident Ohio State fan, loved that Penn State choked on national television. All the Ohio State fans celebrated that. Deborah asked a question: why do you think Staley was in for punts for Boo? Honestly, I have no idea. I was very surprised by that. And I was even more surprised after he muffed the first one that they let him go out again. I have no idea why they did that. It made no sense. Billy said we should go really up in rankings if we beat Alabama. Jonathan said, I do think Lebby will be good at State if he stays there for a while. I don't see him staying for a while. The only coach who's ever had national success at Mississippi State was Dan Mullen, and that was pre-NIL. Mississippi State's NIL budget doesn't compare with half the schools in the conference. So the ceiling at Mississippi State is 7-5. Like, you're just never going to have the Jimmies and Joes. You can be as good of a coaching staff as you can be, but if you don't have players, it doesn't matter. And they're just never going to get players there that can take them to the next level. If I was Jeff Lebby, I'd be wondering what Arkansas wants to do. I'll take all that Walmart money and build a monster. Jeff Lebby could do very, very well at Arkansas. So I'll be curious to see how it plays out, but I don't see him staying at Mississippi State for very long because they just can't compete monetarily. Tim Dewberry, Arizona State's ranked 25th. Yeah, I think everybody has an issue with that. That's nothing about that is right. Rebel Juice said, Will, Penn State has some more losses coming, Ohio State and Indiana. It's a good possibility. Matt said the AP poll is a joke. Rhonda agrees. Sam said, I did hear they tripled their NIL this year, but it's still only $15 million. Not enough. No, not even close. And that's probably $15 million for the entire athletic department, not football. Not going to get it done. All right. Well, it is the bye week, but we will be live this Thursday and next Sunday, just to talk through the rest of the season. I'm sure there'll be lots happening in the sports world around football. We'll also get into a little bit of basketball because men's and women's basketball practices have started. And so, we'll jump into that a little bit and start prepping for that. But we will try and cover all that in the off week. One thing we know, we will win this Saturday. There's no chance we lose this Saturday. So, who knows? By the time the next AP poll comes out, maybe we'll move up to 13 or 14 because we can't possibly lose. But Thursday night, 9:00 Eastern, next Sunday, 9:00 Eastern. We hope to see you all then. And until then, go Vols.